dreamed of baby girls crying in the night. Nurse called a liar, named with spite. Parents felt ashamed, love gone astray. They refused her a name, desperate to throw her away. Liars all alone, lost in a cruel zone.
While the two royal seclusion suites in the temple were constructed with the idea of being used by the heir apparent and his brothers, it became common practice to allow any newly united couple to use the suite if it was not needed. There were 4 other seclusion suites created at the time of Tremaine and Antiochus, so that up to 6 couples could conceivably be in seclusion simultaneously. In addition, it is common for Estolians in other countries to create their own unique seclusion space. It is the time set apart that is uniquely critical, not the specific locale. Cadaro Alfonso Zakarian, Capizziulo 80.
Liar felt peculiar, choosing to go to a foreign country with someone she barely knew. But Max had brought home to her just how lost and alone she was without her family's support, such as it had been. In retrospect, she could not figure out why she had lived by their edicts for so long. Perhaps there was a part of her that hoped to earn their love if she was willing to do as they asked. She had to do something with her life, and right now she had no direction or purpose. Flying off to a new land seemed as good as anything else. She would, at the very least, be near Penn, and she could take the time to get to know her sister outside the stifling atmosphere of the house they had grown up in. Voices brought her out of her reverie. Ria, who was scheduled to travel with them to Estolia, was arriving. Ria had the same wine-red hair and was the same height and build. The only difference was the color of their eyes. Ria had amber cat's eyes compared to Liar's green ones. In fact, the two could almost have been twins. They were that similar. Ria's hair was wavy instead of Liar's tight curls, but they both wore it long. As Ria entered the airplane, she stopped at the sight of Liar. She rapidly took in her hair, eyes, and build, then smiled and came forward.
"You must be Liar,"
she said. A brilliant smile graced her face.
"My brother said you were beautiful. He did not tell me we look so much alike."
Zeke and Zaire joined them, with Zeb just behind. Max brought up the rear. Zeke stepped up to Liar and turned to Ria, saying,
Ria, Zaire, I would like to introduce you to Liar Langham. Liar, this is my niece, Rhiannon Zakarian, and her fiancé, Zaire Amador.
During the flight to Estolia, Liar and Ria became, if it was possible to characterize it in that way, twins of the heart and soul, as well as twins in appearance.
Aren't amber eyes a strange combination with red hair?
Liar asked, thinking back to the article her father demanded she read. She remembered that it had all kinds of genetic information she had trouble following.
"The most intriguing part of our heritage,"
Ria said, gesturing to her brother and herself,
"is that we all ended up with amber eyes. Father has grey eyes and dark hair, and mother has red hair and green eyes. Grandmother had the most luxurious dark brown hair, but all of us kids inherited her eye colour."
Her expression changed from lighthearted to sad.
"She died last year. She lived a full life, but it is difficult to be without her."
She saw Tiernan born.
Zeb pointed out softly, squeezing her shoulder in sympathy. He looked over to Liar and said,
Tiernan is our nephew.
Do all Estolians have large families?
Liar asked. She yearned for a large family for herself. If her parents had more than the 3 children, one of them might have championed her, taken her side, and cared what happened to her.
I have an older brother, Eduardo, and a younger sister, Annie.
Max said.
Most of the families in Estolia have 2 or 3 children.
Must one ascribe to your faith to live in Estolia?
Zaire asked Zeke. Liar was curious about that too. She was so comfortable with Zeke that she forgot he was a religious leader. Zeke answered,
To visit Estolia, you are not required to be a believer. We would not, however, encourage anyone to make plans to live in Estolia for their entire lives if they did not plan to become a member of our faith.
So for Ria and myself.
Zaire began.
You and Ria will remain with us for a full year.
Zeke said.
During the year, you will learn about our religion and history, and at the end of the year, decide whether you wish to live the faith or not. Nobody will pressure you into it. Ria will always be with you, no matter what you choose. If you are not comfortable with the faith, Zira, the 2 of you will prefer living away from Estolia.
Lyre was watching Ria's face while Zeke was speaking and wondered if what he said was true. From Ria's expression, it seemed unlikely that she would prefer to live anywhere else, despite what her uncle said. Lyre's thoughts then shifted to what would happen in her future. Zeke must have seen the question on her face. He said,
And you, Lyre, I want you to know that, while your situation is slightly different, you are still here under a similar understanding. We would like you to consider Estolia your home always, but once you have your feet under you, if you find it is not a comfortable place, you can leave. We plan to help you establish yourself in life, Lyre, in whatever way works for you.
Aside from all that, I would love it if you would be willing to stick around for my wedding.
Ria said. She blushed and looked at her uncle.
In 6 days?
Zeke's smile became quite broad at that.
Yes, today is the first day. Not as secluded as I would recommend, but certainly still the first day. I have asked that the royal seclusion suite be prepared for your arrival. Nico will likely be back here a week before his birthday, and I have a sense he will need your influence in the days leading up to it.
He turned from Ria to Lyre.
He will need you as well, Lyre, in some way.
She frowned, glancing at Max uncertainly.
You don't think...
She began, wondering if Zeke somehow thought she was keen on Nico.
I believe, Lyre, that Nico will meet the woman who will be the love of his life in the next day or two, but she will need to know she is making the right choice in accepting him. Speaking with you and Ria will help her decide.
We will only be out of seclusion a day before his birthday.
Ria observed.
Time enough.
Zeke said.
Just as Nico will be out of seclusion only the day before our next ceremony.
Everyone was quiet for a short time. Lyre was fascinated by the nuances of the conversation. Zeke spoke about Nico meeting the love of his life as if it was a foregone conclusion. But how could he know? Lyre looked at Max as she thought about anyone meeting the love of their life.
How are you doing, Lyre?
Max asked her. She glanced at Ria, whose attention was centered on Zir to the exclusion of everything else.
I'm okay. What work do you do, Max?
She asked.
Zeke told me you worked in the international offices, but that you were recalled to Estolia suddenly.
Max glanced at his uncle and then looked back at her.
Yes, I was working as a liaison in various business offices. I have some relatives in France, and they have had me working on the board of directors of Domain International, but the job will soon be taken over by my older brother, Eduardo. He has a better head for business than I have anyway, and he is moving to France with his wife.
What will you do in Estolia?
I will continue to be a liaison for various business interests. I might also work with Nico for a year after he returns. There are a lot of unknowns. I will not really know until the next month is over.
What is happening in the next month?
Estolia is a dual monarchy and theocracy, with the responsibilities of leadership shared between the king and the leader of the faith. When the heir apparent turns 30, he marries, and 7 days after his first child is born, he is coronated. The time between the birthday of the heir apparent and when the next leader of the faith is married is termed the transition.
And the new king has been coronated already?
She guessed. Max nodded, relaxing back in his seat before clarifying.
Nico is in line to be the next leader of the religion. He cannot take it over until he is married. In our faith, a man marries when he is 30.
Aren't you the same age as Nico?
He nodded again.
For the top positions of leadership, it is considered critical to try to marry as close to one's birthday as possible. For average people like me, it is not that critical, so long as I am married in the next year and 17 days.
What will I do in Estolia?
She asked. Zeke answered her question.
First of all, you will be an honored and treasured guest for the final festivities in our transition. This round anyway. They will last until 8 days after Nico's birthday. There are a few other things that might take place in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So let us say it will be a month full of exciting events. Afterward, Ria has an idea she wants to work on. She might want an assistant, and you would be perfect for the job. At the end of the year, Zer and Ria will decide if they want to make their home permanently in Estolia, and you can use that as the time for you to decide as well.
Ria was apparently not as deeply involved in her whispered conversation with Zer as Lyre thought, because she turned when her name was mentioned. With a squeal of delight, she launched herself into her uncle's arms.
Do you really mean it, Uncle?
she asked.
I do, Rhea.
He was solemn.
You have demonstrated a critical need in Estolia. You must be involved in designing a system to address the issue. I believe...
His expression became concerned, his features drawn as he glanced towards Zeb.
We are going to experience some extraordinary events before I fully retire from active participation in the leadership. We must be prepared, as a nation, to face them from a position of strength.
While Zeke and Rhea went on to discuss her idea, Lyre tuned them out. She felt an easing of tension. No matter how or why she had ended up traveling to this foreign country, these people had employment for her, and she had a feeling that they would help her find herself.
Her world turned cold, life's bitter test. Junked her fit sold, she did her best. Fighting every day, light within the dark. Trying to find her way, striking out a spark. Liars all alone.